Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video. I know it's been a while, but today I decided to talk about a subject I've wanted to talk about for a while, but I've left for a bit just to get more experience with the game and, well, the mechanics. And that is, well, my tier list. So this is basically me ranking the kill teams, well, from a scale of like really good to bad, effectively. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe, as well as comment about what you thought about the tier list and whether you agree or disagree or whatever changes you like to make. But yeah, as I said, this is going to be my tier list. So before I go into the tiers, I will talk about how my rankings work and why I've come to these decisions. So I've decided to leave it quite late, basically so I have a lot more experience with the game and the kill teams, as I've effectively played against and with all the kill teams. And, you know, I've played in a few tournaments. I've seen tournament data as well, so it's factoring into that, but not being the sole basis behind my tier list, because it's still quite a personal one. And, you know, it's like you've got great resources out there, like Glass Half Dead did a really good kill team tier list, as well as Command Point. So you can already check those out there. They're really useful. I found those really good to listen to and watch. But yeah, this is just my basically basis for tiering the kill teams. And part of the reason I've left it so late is because this is the most time we've had with all the current kill teams. Like, as the time of recording, like it's the end of December. But in January, you're going to have the, the Gene Stealer Cult kill team in the January White Dwarf. And then we've got a new box set coming out with 2 new kill teams. But I think now we've got a good stability on the game. We've had a FAQ and errata released about October. So for 2 months, the game has been allowed to settle. And I think now would be a fair time to comment on how I think the game is before it changes. And, you know, if this is if people like this, I'll probably do what I intended with Warhammer Underworlds and basically do a tier list every quarter or every 4 months. So you'd either get 3 or 4 a year. Because the problem is, if you do them too much, they change too quickly. If you leave them too long, they kind of become useless to watch. But I hope you find this entertaining and fun. Now, as for the tiers, I'll be ranking them from S, like S tier being the best, and E being the worst. So it'll be S, A, B, C, D, E. And basically, S tier would be best kill team in the game. Like, you're 100% likely to run into them at a tournament and they're likely to win it. Then A tier kill teams would be kill teams that are really strong, that are likely to be seen in a kill team event and have a good chance of winning. Then you've got B tier kill teams, which I like to put as kind of like gatekeeping kill teams, as in they're still quite popular, not as popular as A or S tier kill teams, but they're still really strong. They could win an event, but you kind of have to keep them in mind because of what they bring to the game and how you have to react around them, because you can't ignore these kill teams, because if you do, then they will beat you. So you have to be able to deal with these. Then you've got your C tier, which is just your average. They're likely to go like 2-2 out of 4-round tournament, just even. You know, they could win an event if you're really lucky, but more often than not, they're just middle of the road, average. Then you've got your D tier kill teams, which are just underperforming. You're more likely to lose with them than win. If you're playing them in a tournament setting, very unlikely to win. And then you've got E tier, which is just bad, like really bad. There's no way around that. And the important thing to remember with these tier listings, like, this is how I rate them. And obviously this is more slanted towards competitive and tournament play. It will be a good reflection of how they perform casually as well. But in a casual environment, things are going to be a bit more relaxed and swingy, as, you know, you're not just out there to win, you're just generally to play and have fun. And you're probably not intentionally using these kill teams to their maximum effect. You know, you're just trying to play fun games with your friends. But even then, it should give you a rough guideline. And, you know, nothing's set in stone. These could easily change with, you know, new kill teams and like erratas. But this is how I feel all the kill teams currently represent in terms of the game. So let's get on with the kill team tier list. So yeah, for my kill team tier list, here it is now. I'll show it to you to begin with because, you know, if you wanted to, you could hop around the video and see it either at the end or the beginning. But this is how my kill team tier list basically looks at the moment. And don't worry, I'll be going through it from ascending order to descending. Now, the kill teams, as you'll see, aren't really ranked in terms of who is best in each tier. They're just how I group them. But, I will talk about their power level within a tier. I think it'd be too difficult to rank which kill team is better in terms of what tier they're in. But this is how it generally looks. So first, there are only 2 S tier warbands. And, well, the S tier warband that we'll start off with are the Tau Pathfinders. Now, this is an insanely good kill team. Definitely too good. Like, the problem is there's a lot of problems with the Pathfinders. And it's really weird. And I think it's only a few things that are making them too strong. So what makes these good is you're generally having 13 to 12 bodies, which means you're generally outnumbering most kill teams, because generally kill teams have 10 or less operatives. So with 12 to 13, you're already outnumbering people, which is great. Your guns do 4/5 damage. You hit on 4s, but the biggest thing are Markalites. And just there's so much synergy within this kill team. Every operative supports each other, and then you just have the insane benefit from their, well, Markalites. So if you don't know, if you have one Markalite, it's an action point to give an operative 1 Markalite token, and if they stack and you only lose one of them per turn, in turning point if you don't kill the operative with the Markalite tokens. So if an operative has 1 Markalite token, you get a reroll. If they have 2, you get Ignores Cover. If you have 3, you get +1 Ballistic Skill. If you have 4, you ignore Obscuring. And if you have 5, you treat their Conceal Order as if it's an Engage, which is huge. Now, the biggest problem with this kill team is because it's very easy to get to 5 or even 4 Markalite tokens, because you've got equipment, you've got enhanced targeting optics that basically, when you shoot at someone with a Markalite token, they count as having 1 more, or you've got enhanced Markalite will just give an opponent 2 Markalite tokens. So quite quickly, you can get someone to 5 Markalite tokens and then just go, you're in the open, even if you're behind heavy cover, even if you're concealed, as long as I can see any part of your body, bam, you're shot and you're dead. And, they've got a worthy cause, so they can effectively always activate before anyone else, as long as they're on an objective, well, within white of an objective or within blue of an enemy operative. So when you're playing that, you can effectively guarantee you're always going first. And if you beat your opponent in terms of initiative, you can effectively have 2 or more goes before them. And then there's another contentious issue where you can use a worthy cause with the drone controller. So we're waiting for it to be clarified, but currently everyone's playing it as you activate the drone controller with a worthy cause. Then you activate the recon drone, who then uses Analyze to activate another operative. So you're either having 3 to 4 activations before your opponent, even if they're going first, which is just mad. And it's really, I think people are beginning to realize how strong they are. And it's not this kind of thing where they just automatically beat people. They beat people if you know how to use them. And it is very hard to play against them because they can effectively ignore your conceals unless you've got a special rule that says you always count as being on concealed. And they're just really good. They've done exceedingly well at the Kill Team tournament in London, which was, I think, November, where I came 4th with Pathfinders, and then 3rd was another Kill Team, and then 1st and 2nd were also Pathfinders. And they've started to dominate in other tournaments as well. I think for the health of the game, they need to either make 5 Markalite tokens just not count as ignoring conceal, or it doesn't work if you're behind heavy. They need to work some kind of balance. But yeah, Pathfinder's incredibly good. Not even just, it is oppressive shooting, but if you know how to play, they've even got their leader who can do a once per turn Mont car, so everyone can get a free dash. They're deceptively mobile. They have so many tips and tricks. Even their EMP grenades are amazing because they have their lethal value is based on your armor save, so they could be anywhere from lethal 5 up to lethal 2 up. So good. There's so many good things about this kill team that, yeah, they're just easily one of the best, if not the best kill team at the moment. Next, you have Orc Commandos, who personally, they're my favorite, and I think they are the best because, well, You've got a leader who has 13 wounds, sorry. Then you've got 9 other operatives who will all have 10 wounds unless you take the grot. But even then, the grot in itself is an amazing utility piece, because if you can get the grot with interloper, like the grot can score you objectives and last turning point shoot away, like go off the board for another 2 victory points. They're so flexible. Just a scratch makes them way more tougher than they should be, on already having 10 wounds. Like, once again, with the Pathfinders, they just have so many tricks, and they're so flexible. They have surprisingly good shooting with their Sniper Boy and Rocket Boy, who can easily one-shot opponents because of how good their shooting is. Daka Boy is great as well. Currently, what it is also pushing them is to do double dynamite. So their dynamite is a 4 equipment piece, which is blast, white, and it does 4/5 damage with AP1 with indirect. And because you can take 2 of them, you can basically like advance deploy up to 2 operatives as well. But you have your Breacher Boy, who was just your grenade caddy, who ignores terrain pieces of just 1 inch, well, black thickness, as if they're not there. So they have like all of this insane board pressure because they can take 2 dynamites. Then you've got the trick with the Daka Boy. You can do Daka Dash, which allows it to do a shoot and dash action as 1 AP. So you give it the dynamite, so for 2 AP it can dash and shoot. And then if you give an extra action point, then they can also move. So you've got these huge threat ranges for area denial and board control. And like, as I forgot to mention with the Tau as well, the Tau Pathfinders, both kill teams have easy ways of giving +1 action point, as well as -1 when it comes to the Pathfinders. But yeah, the Orcs are just so flexible and tough. If you can plan out your game, it's almost, you can certainly beat some kill teams just on deployment, because especially on missions like, what do you call it, when you've only got, I forgot the name of it, but it's not Consecration, I think it's the one with only 4 objectives. So when you can like advance deploy, you can box your opponent in. If they charge you because of just a scratch, it basically ignores any hit. So you effectively get an extra defense dice that is just huge, because if someone hits you for like critical damage or even like normal damage, you can survive stuff that should kill you and then kill your opponent. And you always have that freedom to use at every turning point. They've got so many flexible stratagems, and it's just really good kill team. Once again, like, it exemplifies what happens when a kill team has lots of flexibility as well as great durability. So personally, my best kill team, but overall I say it'd be like an even tie between the Pathfinders and the Commandos. Now going into A tier, we have let's start off with the Veteran Guardsmen, or the Death Corps of Krieg. So this kill team, once again, lots of specialists to select from. You generally have a kill team of 10 models, but you can either take 4 extra models or 2 airstrikes. And that flexibility actually turns out to be really good. So before I used to be like, oh, you would always take the airstrikes, but then I found like just having 4 extra guardsmen, so 14 bodies, is actually a huge threat, especially when you do their once per game free dash in the strategy phase, where they just dash towards you, because you can effectively do a first turn rush onto points, and suddenly you can just overwhelm the opponent. Like, it becomes more beneficial. Like, if you outnumber opponents already when you have 10 operatives, it's even better just go into 4, so you get 14, and just swarm in the opponent if they have no way to deal with like blast, or they have like if they don't have blast or anything like that can deal with you, because then they just don't have the bodies to kill you fast enough while you just run into the points to outscore them. And even then, the airstrikes are really good. They can effectively take up to 4 unique gunners, so you can have a grenade launcher, plasma gun, and melter gun on the same team, so you've got tons of sources of AP1/2, and like, their orders give them tons of flexibility. You can get rerolls on the whole kill team. Even in combat, they can become quite good roadblocks. So they're just really flexible. The only thing that really keeps them down is the fact they're just 7 wounds with a 5-up save. If they had like a 4-up save, I think they'd be borderline S, or probably S tier. Like, they're such a good kill team. And if your opponent has no access to blast weapons or isn't prepared to deal with potentially 14 models, then you're in a good chance of winning. They do take a lot of practice, and there's a lot of synergy. Once again, they have a lot of really cool combinations, like the spotter with the sniper, so you can immediately reveal someone who's concealed and have like either your sniper or other gunner shoot them. You know, you've got your medic and then also your demolitions man. Lots of flexibility. Does take quite a bit of practice, but once you get the hang of them, they are an exceedingly strong kill team. Next, we have the Harlequins, who are just a very good kill team. You get 8 models, well, 8 operatives. They all have fly and 3 action points. So already you're just like super flexible, and having everyone have fly just makes you insanely mobile. And you can do crazy charges. Not only that, they've got, you know, fusion guns and neuro pistols are decently good shooting weapons. They've got, as I said, you know, they're no slouch in close combat, and they also have amazing stratagems. So they've got like domino field. So as long as they haven't shot or they have activated and they're within black over terrain piece, they always count as conceal. So effectively you can always just advance up with them before they can get shot. And then, you know, you have turning point 2 to charge in. Then you have stuff like where they can spend a command point. So if they roll a crit, they can immediately strike with another blow. And then you could effectively double tap an opponent and immediately kill them if you roll a crit and a hit. Or you can hit someone and then fall back out of combat. So you can tag someone and fall back. Or you can charge, kill someone in melee, and then shoot someone else. Now, these are very strong. And I think it's probably domino field that's making them so strong, because you can't shoot them unless you're within white of them because of that ability. So maybe if that was 2 CP, it'd bring them down a bit. But they're so strong. And you can't underestimate them. They do have some bad matchups, but it's generally the commandos and the pathfinders, I feel. Because once again, pathfinders can play around them by just taking 5 EMP grenades, and then the commandos can just play around them with just a scratch. But even then, this kill team is extremely solid, and you cannot underestimate them. Even when I've played into them, it's always been a tough game, and I always dread running into Harlequins because they have that insane mobility. Just everyone having fly means they don't care about terrain. If you're on a vantage point, they'll just charge you. Like I can't state how good having flying everyone is, but that's why I rate them A tier. I know some people think they're S tier, but I just don't think they can compete with the S tier warbands. Kill teams. But yeah, that's Harlequins. Next you have Custodes that used to be like above S tier. They were like triple S tier. So with the errata changes, they are not as good as they were before, but are still a huge roadblock. Some kill teams still can't just beat them, and it's partly because of their stratagem Aegis of the Emperor for 1 CP, where they basically can treat all critical damage as normal damage. So, you know, they all have 18 wins with a 2-up save. Their leader has 19. You can also take 2 Custodes and then 5 Sisters of Silence, or 5 Sisters of Silence. They are still quite flexible, and even 4 Custodes can be quite a dominating force, although you probably run them as 2 Custodes and 5 Sisters. But yeah, it's just, they are, because of that Aegis of the Emperor, they are so good. And even then they have the potential for Peerless Warriors to effectively shoot and fight twice, depending on what order. They do hurt by being free APL, but 4 APL was too good on them. You know, the only thing I would think that would help make them less oppressive to play against would be making Aegis of the Emperor 2 CP. But they kind of don't have anything else to use it on apart from rerolls. But oh my gosh, they are so good. But once again, it's the same thing as Harlequins. I don't think they do well into commandos, and especially not pathfinders. So I played a game with pathfinders into Custodes. So I was Custodes, and I was playing against Charles, and we played like 3 games, and even like when I went all shield, effectively the pathfinders wiped me out every game by turn 2. There's just like, unless I went with the Sisters, but even then it just meant the Custodes died first and then the Sisters died. It's just that kind of disparity. If you can quickly bring down a Custodes, they lose huge, like they just lose so much. And when you can bring down 1 to 2 per turn, they really suffer. But against everyone else, they're just so good. They completely shut down melee-only teams. Like, if you can't play around custodies, you can't play the game. So that's why they automatically lock out a ton of kill teams from the game, even though they've been nerfed. So yeah, custodies still good, just not dominating. And then finally for A tier, we have the novitiates. So the novitiates were a big surprise for me. I didn't think they would be as good until I saw the full rules and then played games and then played into them. With their faith point generation, if you can't kill the Chalice Lady early, they are getting 6 faith points per turn, which stack minimum 6 faith points. And when they can just change dice rolls with their faith points after rolling, they can just guarantee stuff dies. Their flamers are actually really good because they're 2/3, which with 1 CP can go to 3/4. Even then, they've just got really good mix of operatives. And, you know, their equipment is not too much to write home about, but you can effectively make half the kill team have a 3-up save. And once again, yeah, it's just mainly the faith points pushing them so high. They are, once again, you need to learn a lot with them. I think they have a lot of learning style similar to the veteran guardsmen. But if you can master them, like, they are just amazingly strong. I cannot underestimate how strong it is that you can just change dice rolls, because you can fight people and then just murder stuff. There's stuff like with the novitiate with the eviscerator, where for like 2 action points she can attack another person, but she's also got like melee splash on her. So if she hits someone with 2 crits, she'll do like 4 mortal wounds to everyone around her and that target. So then she'll take damage from the person she attacks, but then the next person she attacks instantly dies because she's doing 5/6 damage, and that target would have already taken 4 mortal wounds. So thanks to faith dice, faith points, you can make crazy reliable plays. And the only things they actually struggle against are once again the S tier kill teams, because they have tools of killing key pieces quickly, like the Chalice Lady. Because, you know, even if you have to stick her completely out of visibility, whereas the commanders can just charge around there. But they're still a really good kill team, and I was impressed by how good they are. They look just fragile on paper, but playing against them, they're incredibly rough. Just because, you know, 10 of them, 1 of them has 8 wounds with a 3-up save, then the rest of them generally have a 4-up save. Just really good. For B tier, so first in the B tier, you've got the Hunterclades. So they were our first White Dwarf kill team, and while they have a lot of neat rules, I'll talk about them with AdMech because I've put them in the same tier, because effectively I feel they're of equal power, but they do better things differently. So it's more like a side grade to the AdMech instead of being an upgrade, as you've seen with other bespoke teams. Because it's weird. Like, if you go AdMech, you have access to all the archetypes because you have different kill teams to select from, but you have the powerful ability to do double plasma and double arc rifle, which means you can get 4 guns with AP 2/1, which is incredibly strong. But also you have that flexibility to play around the missions. Your stratagems are okay, but because you have so much choice with that kill team, that's where the power comes from. Then with the Hunterclades, they're more specialist. You can't do double plasma, double arc rifle, but you get more tools to compensate for that. But in a way to balance them, which is what I like, what Games Workshop have done, they're limited in their tac op selection from, instead of being able to select everything, they're locked into either recon or seek and destroy. And those 2 choices are very limiting, and their tac ops are basically supported via their stratagems. So it's a really weird selection, and I've been talking to Charles about them a lot, who basically plays AdMech a lot and has played a lot of Hunterclade, and they effectively are balanced between each other, and that's why I've put them there. They're a really good shooting team, and you have the ability to spec into melee with their tech assassins, but, you know, they're still very solid. They do have some weaknesses of being rushed down early, but they can apply oppressive, good shooting and still have a good combat element. And it's your choice which you prefer, but you've got the flexibility of AdMech, whereas the Hunterclades can do more sneaky infiltration and play around some missions better. It almost comes down to what missions your tournament you're playing at is using and which kill team you'd think would be more beneficial to you. And that's why I've basically ranked them in the same tier. Next for the B tier, we have the Warp Coven, which are our most recent White Dwarf kill team. So this kill team is a straight upgrade from the Thousand Suns in the Compendium. And what makes them interesting is you can take up to 3 sorcerers, and your sorcerer is your leader, so you can take 2 more sorcerers, and you can mix between Rubrique Marines and also, Zangors. So with the added flexibility, they have a lot of choice. So if you go full if you take majority of your operatives as Zangor, you get Recon. If you take the majority of your operatives as Rubrique, you get Security. So already like 2 good TAC op archetypes to pick from. But the main thing is, I feel they're stronger, but the problem is there's so much depth to this kill team where, you effectively all your leaders have 4 types of upgrade equipment. So you've got like boons, psychic powers, then equipment, and then like demonic boons and stuff like that. So there's really a lot of depth from this kill team and flexibility. You've still got the strength of the AP1 guns from the Thousand Suns Marines, but the Zangors add some real nice melee element as well as body threats. But the biggest thing about this kill team are the sorcerers with their psychic powers. And just because they have so much depth in that, I think B tier is where they sit for now until like more people can show what they can actually do. Obviously, you've got stuff like the flying melee sorcerer. Their biggest power is the psychic power that effectively reduces your enemy movement. So their dashes go from blue to black, and they can't move more than 3 white in an act, like if they're charging. So they go down to just 3 white, unless, like they don't get the extra white bonus from charging. So they're really good at just controlling the board, because you've got control from the psychic powers, and then you've got shooting psychic powers that have blast or ignores cover or indirect, and then you've also got the shooting or from the Thousand Suns, like their Soul Reaper cannon, or the melee threat from Zangors rushing forward. So they're really, really complex, but if you can figure out how to play them, they're quite strong. And once again, I think they just struggle a bit with the A and especially S tier kill teams, but they're still really solid. And yeah, it's just, I think everyone needs a little bit more time with them, because I think a common mistake is people have been switching what boons you can take, and effectively, if it's locked into your roster, you can't switch them out. So that's the only odd thing, but it's just a lot of cogs in the machine. And I think once people figure out how to play them more effectively, they'd probably rise up in power. Just a very good kill team overall. Next, we've got Tyranids. Now, what's probably keeping them high is just running 10 Gene Stealers, because Gene Stealers are a menace. They are like, if you can't deal with Gene Stealers, then you don't have a good shot at winning a tournament, because 10 Gene Stealers are still really hard to play against. They're always on conceal. They have crazy mobility, play around the conceal and switching to engage to do surprise charges. They've got that stalk, where they can spend a command point as long as they have conceal once per turning point to do a free move action in the strategy phase. So you can do crazy charges with them. They've got adrenal glands for an extra black of movement on top of their charging. And it's the 10 Gene Stealers keeping them up really high. But even then, you've got warrior builds, which goes great into the mirror. But warriors add, synapse, so they basically ignore wounded and being injured, and then they can effectively get for 1 CP plus 1 APL to an operative when they activate within range of a synapse creature. And even then, warriors on their own, you get 3 and each have 18 wounds, and they can either be melee or gun beasts. You have that flexibility, as well as also being able to take up to 8 Tyranid swarm models, which is really useful for missions like loot and salvage, where you've got 6 points and you need to quickly loot them because of that group activation too. So they're an incredibly flexible team, but once again, I think they just incredibly struggle with the SNAtors. It's just like they're weirdly missing something, because the problem is, if they're outnumbered or they're evenly matched and they don't get the first kill on the charge, you start losing because if they're melee focused, if you shoot someone, generally they can't shoot you back if you kill them. But if you attack someone in melee, you're going to take some hits back unless they're like terrible in combat. So the problem is if you start losing more gene stealers before you start killing, then you're in a really bad spot. And then like they struggle against custodies as well as commandos. Pathfinders play around them by just EMP spam. And, you know, it's just, especially guardsmen. The veteran guardsmen struggle, like a real struggle for the gene stealers, because if you want to deal with them, you effectively have to take shooting attacks on your gene stealers and run your Barb Strangler with your Warrior for blast effect, so it becomes really tough. But they're still a really good kill team. They just have fixed flaws, which also give them great strengths. And once again, I feel they're like Custodies, where they lock out a lot of kill teams from the game, just because of how good 10 Gene Stealers are. Now, this is another contentious pick, probably, but I've put Necrons in the B tier. And the reason I've put Necrons in B tier is because they have, I would say, before Pathfinders, they had the best shooting in the game. Now Pathfinders have the best shooting in the game, but all Necron guns do 4/5 damage, generally have AP1 and hit on freeze. And they are just incredibly tough and resilient. And when they have stuff like We'll Be Back, they can come back at the start of the turn on a point, and they heal wounds so they can come back healed. The biggest problem is their mobility, only having 2 white of movement and very limited ways to get to 3 white. But their shooting is so good. Once again, they're kind of like a gatekeeping kill team. But I think they're really good. They struggle on objectives-based games where they have to grab objectives that are far away, but they're more of a slow, grindy kill team that your opponent, unless they can just wipe multiple models in a turn, they can't leave anyone wounded. They have to go for kills because of your healing ability. And that's just really good. It's like even going 8 Immortals, although I think their best general build is 4 Immortals with Ghost Blasters and then 5 Warriors with Ghost Reapers, because you have your Ghost Reapers advance up while your Immortals lay covering fire. But even then, you've got a lot of flexibility. They just have really good shooting. I would like their melee to be a bit better because flayed ones kind of suck. But they really need some more mobility. So like the only thing keeping them from doing even better is their mobility, because their mobility sucks. Like it just really sucks. They can get Implacable March, but then they can't actually do mission actions. So it kind of defeats the purpose. But I would like to see Necrons buffed a bit. But even then, they're just a really solid solid kill team to play with. Next with B tier, you have Chaos Space Marines. Now I thought about putting them in the C tier, but I think they have so many more flexibility and tools that they can do it in the B tier. And like even in Spain, they've been doing quite well. And I think it's the benefit because they can either run 6 Chaos Space Marines or 3 Chaos Space Marines with cultists, and their cultists can redeploy and do a lot of shenanigans. Like they're barely in the B tier, but they can do some serious damage and serious work. Once again, they can have a heavy bolter that's firing twice and walking, because they can get like their own version of suspensor system. And like once again, they can either go from 6 Space Marines, which would be good against another elite kill team, or you can flex up to 3 Space Marines and then 7 cultists. So you have a 10 size kill team, but then you have a lot of flexibility off of that, where you know, giving the cultist grenades actually makes them a threat and other weapons. So they actually have a lot of flexibility. And, you know, they've got nice equipment where they've got like the dark aura to make, if you're within blue of that barrier, -1 attack, then they can take on another equipment point to give them +1 attack. So they just have nice, just plain good support. And even then, their basic Chaos Space Marines are effectively better with bolt guns because their fists hit as many times as a chainsaw, just with slightly less damage. So yeah, oddly really good for kill team. And if you're choosing to start out with them, they'd be a great choice. Next, we have Grey Knights. Once again, you know, they're just a solid shooting kill team. And if you're playing on a board that's light on terrain, they will just shoot people off because they can do no cover and bolt of discipline. So with their like astral aim, so they can effectively just, when you've got relentless shots, 4 shots with relentless, and you can give one guy +1 damage, so they're doing 4/5, you can quickly shoot people apart. And they're no slouch in combat as well. But once again, they're just a really odd gatekeeper army where they're more gatekeeping bad terrain. So once again, if you know you're turning up to a terrain with lots of open fields or not much terrain, then yeah, Grey Knights are probably even going to push up into the A tier just by how good they are. Because, you know, they can have the ability to do once per game psychic powers for free. So you can go move up, free no cover, double tap, and just because you're relentless, you just mince through stuff. So yeah, basic, but really good. And then finally for B tier, we have Drukhari. And Drukhari, I didn't think were that good until I started playing against them and playing with them. They have amazing weapons from the Blaster, which is like an unlimited range melter gun because it's AP2 D6 damage, like not D6 damage, something like that. And it's just, wow, it is like so good. And not even that, they can take blast pistols. They have really good stratagems, some which only kick in when they've lost an operative, but you can go like 5 Cabalite warriors and 5 witches, or, you know, 10 witches or 10 Cabalites. And I was shocked, you know, I thought they wouldn't be so good without racks, but they are a fast kill team with incredibly good shooting. They have a bit of a learning curve, and they do struggle with more bespoke kill teams as well as the kill teams in the higher tiers, but their shooting is wow. And even in combat, they're no slouch. Like, there's actually no downside from going full Cabalites or 10 Cabalites and 10 witches, 5 Cabalites and 5 witches. They're just really good, like surprisingly really good. You know, they are still quite fragile, but you know, each operative is a 4-up save with 8 wounds. So, and the witches have a 4-up invuln. And, you know, you can be blisteringly fast. You just can't underestimate them. Such a good kill team. And I hope they get more bespoke rules soon, because then they'll probably be even better. So for C tier, these are your more middle of the road kill teams. And first off, we have Imperial Guard. So the main thing keeping them in C tier is because you can do the trick of taking, I think it's what, like 7 guardsmen and then 5 Kazakin or whatever they're called. They're, you know, they're specialist ones, because you can effectively take 2 melter guns, 2 plasmas, or 2 plasma, 2 grenade launchers, because they both can take gunners with that. You know, you have one's hitting on 3s and the other's hitting on 4s, but being able to double up is really good. Problem is, they're just kind of outshone by the veteran guardsmen. Nothing wrong about that. It's just, you know, they're okay. They're just fine, basic. I would struggle in recommending running 14 guardsmen. You can kind of see more from running 10 of the more elite guardsmen, but I would say it's better just playing veteran guardsmen because they have the same rules but better. For orcs, the same thing as guard, really. You can kind of do a nice build with boys and some heavy weapons, but you know, they also have just a scratch like commandos, but I feel commandos just do everything they do but better. So, you know, they're still fun to run, especially if you already have them to build from. But if you wanted to run orcs in kill team, I'd just say go commandos instead. They're better in combat, way better in shooting for some reason, and the normal orcs are just okay. You know, you can take some burner boys, some looters, but you know, and I think the best build is just taking boys with some heavy weapons, like 2 rockets and the rest boys with a knob, because you can like targeting things, so you ignore the penalty for moving and shooting with your rocket. But I'd still say it's just better to run commandos. Chaos Demons, now they're once again surprising until I played them. You know, I think they do really well at taking either 6 horrors or 6 pink horrors or 8 blues, and then you take either 6 demonettes or 6 bloodletters, but you could also take 6 plague bearers. The demons are all just solid. You know, their stratagems aren't great, they're okay, but you know, they all do surprisingly well in combat, and they all bring their own different things. Like the Khorne bloodletters are oddly good at shooting thanks to their equipment, but the Tzeentch add a nice anchoring element either via bodies with the blue horrors or pink horrors for bodies and shooting, although blue horrors are better in my opinion. But having like a mix of either horrors and then either bloodletters or demonettes is actually a really good shout. So yeah, they're not too bad to build, and they're just a solid kill team. You know, it would be nice to see how they'd function with more rules, but yeah, they're just all around good. Next, you have the Deathwatch Marines. Their biggest problem is their 5 models. They do have a lot more specialists around that, but then they lose the benefit of not being able to shoot twice unless you give them all bolt guns with, well, combi bolt guns with power weapons, because, you know, they can fire twice and you probably build them that way, but they're oddly just slightly underpowered compared to the Grey Knights. They're just missing something despite all the flexibility they have. Although I do like the fact that you can run 2 veterans with storm shields and close combat weapons, because that's very, very good if you're into a melee team. But you kind of need to very much game the roster in terms of you need to figure out what your opponent is trying to bring and counter them exactly with what Deathwatch Marines you want, which reflects how they play in the narrative, but it's actually quite restrictive in the game. So that's why they're only C tier. I thought they would be better, but after playing into them and against them and with them, they're just not as good as I thought they'd be, oddly. In C tier, we have Genestealer Cults. Now, they have their own tools, but I think the best way to describe them is like a balanced commandos. They have their own dynamite, but they have no way to effectively move and shoot with it because they have no way to modify APL with it. So it's really tough. They have tools, like they do have some play, but the problem is the stuff they want to do is done better by effectively commandos and other kill teams. They are quite fragile, but Tyranids do combat better than them, and then commandos do the sneaky stuff better than them. So they're still an okay kill team, but I'm really interested to see how the White Dwarf handles them, because that will probably give them the buff they need to perform better. And then finally you have the Sisters, which I think are just a nice all-round kill team. They have some nice, decently powerful stratagems, and you can either go like 10 Sisters or with like 8 wounds and 3 up saves, or you can mix some melee into there with Sister Repentia and stuff. So they have some nice flexibility as well as really good shooting, but I think they're just C tier. It's just, you know, it would be nice if they had similar faith points to the Novitiates, but then they'd probably be better than the Novitiates. And, you know, they're just okay, solid, I think. Now we come into the D tier. Yeah, it's Marines. I was tempted to put Scouts in C tier because I do think Scouts are the best out of the Marines, and probably put, like, what do you got, Heavy Intercessors in E tier. But I think Heavy Intercessors are okay in on D tier. It's just Marines struggle. They are too rigid for kill team. That's why Scouts are so good for them. I would love them to come in White Dwarf, where you can either mix like Reavers and the Phobos armor Marines, as well as being able to mix intercessors of all kinds into a kill team. But at the moment, they're just not good. You know, they're not good. There's no way around it. Being an elite kill team is tough, but when you basically all have the same loadout, it's even worse. And having all their stratagems locked to Primaris units and individual Primaris units is just tough. So that's Marines. Fine. And then, yeah, we've got Tau. And the problem is, you can go, John, why have you put Pathfinders in S tier, but normal Tau and D? And it's weird. It's like, I was tempted to put them in C tier, but every time I played against Tau or played with them, they just struggle. Because the problem is they wipe out who they play against, or they get wiped out. But the people they wipe out, they lose on the mission because they have no one to challenge the points. You have only 2 APL models. You have, in kill team, you either need to have bodies or a good melee presence to challenge and contest points. And they don't have either. Their Markalites are not as good. Stealth suits are fine, but the problem is the moment they get close to a point or charged, they fall apart. It's really odd. Like, I wish they were with Kroot, but because they're not, they just have no melee element. They just really struggle with contesting points. And when the name of the game is about contesting objectives, as I said, they don't have the body or melee ability to do it. The guns are fine. They just hit okay. But, you know, Markalites are just rerolls. They're not nothing else. They kind of struggle quite badly. And yeah, if you're looking to play Tau, just play Pathfinders. They do everything you want, but much better. Then we have Death Guard. Now, this was a shock to me. I was originally going to put them in B tier, but after playing with them and playing against them a lot, they're really tough. Like, oh my gosh, their durability is great, but their mobility is so bad that they suffer worse than the Necrons, because the Necrons have better shooting if you take 5 Death Guard, yeah, you can take the Bell to give everyone the extra white of movement again. But the problem with that is the missions have objectives really spread out, whereas that forces your kill team to operate in a really tight bubble, within red of the Bell carrier. So it's just limiting you too much, even for a turning point 1 push with the Bell. And, they're really balanced, especially, the Poxwalkers cost for them to do mission actions is 2 AP, but they're just, that mobility. I think if Poxwalkers at least just had normal free white movement, it would be fine. But my gosh, this kill team is just, if it had the shooting like comparable to Necrons, like if you could take more weapon specialists, you would go, okay, at least as though they're slowly moving up, they can threaten. And you can argue, oh, John, they just move, dash, then shoot. But until you play around only having 2 white of movement with plus or minus a dash, it's really tough. And when they play into the Thousand Suns, the Warp Coven, when they do that power that basically limits your movement, they just lose because they can't go anywhere. So it is really weird though. Our kill team has really solid rules and is just locked back by the mobility. And that's why they're in D tier. Now you have the Thousand Suns. They're not bad. They're just completely outclassed by the Warp Coven in B tier. Warp Coven do everything they want to do but better. So there's no point in running the Thousand Suns. Just run Warp Coven. They do everything you want to do but better. Then finally we have Kroot. I was actually considering putting Kroot in C tier because they have a lot of turn 1 tricks. But then as I realized, they can swarm the field. They have up to 4 operatives that can do 5 white charges. It's just, they lack something. It's like, they don't have, outside of the Krutok shooting, they don't have much. They have okay shooting 3/4, and even in melee it's 3/4. It's weird. They just have a nice turning point 1 presence, but then after that they struggle. And if you have a way to kill multiple operatives at once, like with lots of blast, they just fall apart. But I would say they're almost C tier. They just need like a White Dwarf supplement or something, and they'd probably be good. So like they're very close to being very good, very close. And then E tier is the Eldar tier. I have played with Eldar. I knew they were bad going into their kill team selection, because you can either have a fire team of 5 rangers, 4 rangers, 4 Dire Avengers, or 5 Guardians of either type. So you can have a maximum of 10 Guardians, 8 Dire Avengers, that kind of mix. And they suck. They suck so bad. They have mobility. Like they have the mobility stratagem where they get a free dash when they move. So that's nice. But outside of that, weapon platforms seems like they were made in some kind of like, fine, you want weapon platforms, here are your weapon platforms. Like you can't move or shoot with it. You can either move or shoot with it. You can't do both. And if you kill the gunner, which is very easy to do, then the platform is useless. You've got Dire Avengers who oddly don't do much damage and then just die. The Dire Avenger Exarch, who is just terrible. And then Rangers, who really don't do enough damage. Most snipers have like Mortal Wounds 2 or 3 on their snipers. Because they only have Mortal Wounds 1 and they're heavy, you spend a turn getting into position. And then you're just like, cool, I do some hits. And I've done some damage. You can get equipment to make them do Mortal Wounds 2 instead. But oh my gosh, it's such a disappointingly bad kill team. Like it desperately needs White Dwarf attention or like their own unique kit. Like, because the way Eldar are just like, don't play that. I played them. I would not recommend other people playing them if you want to have fun while playing. They don't even die fun. They're just not good. So E tier for Eldar. So yeah, there you have it. That's my kill team at the moment as of December 2021 for kill team. I hope my ramblings made sense, because yeah, that's how I effectively look at the game. Easily Pathfinders and Commandos are the best. Generally, I'd probably say Commandos, generally I'd probably say Pathfinders are the best, but I think Commandos have the edge just in the matchup personally, but also because they beat other kill teams better. But Pathfinders are so good. And I would like some kind of toning down for them, but wow, just, I didn't expect Pathfinders to be as good as they are. But then I think after the October FAQ and errata we had, the game is a lot better in terms of balance. Like, even though Pathfinders and Commandos are better than everyone else, I don't think it's by too much. Like, just some minor tweaks and, you know, toning them both kill teams down a bit, and everyone would be at the same level again. Like, even if you look at what do you call them? Custodes lost tons of power, but they went from, like, even though they're still A tier, they effectively went from like triple S tier all the way down to A tier. So they've actually gone down a few tiers in my book. They could still go down a few more, I'd think. Because it's really weird having these odd gatekeeper kill teams, which which generally sit in the B tier. Because, like, you've got the Gene Stealers with their always on conceal, and then you've got the Necrons with their shooting. So if you can't play around both, you kind of can't do well at the game. So it's interesting. I don't think outside of, like, I think it's weird. I think from the A tier, the only thing you really need to tone down are some stratagems for not Pathfinders, the Harlequins and the, what do you call them? Custodes. I think the Novitiates are fine for now. Like, unless someone breaks the game with faith points, they're probably okay for now. I'm still fearful of their faith points. And then Veteran Guardsmen, they're just solid, you know? Like, their airstrikes are very powerful. They probably need to do something with Strafing Run, because in some situations, like if you go first with Strafing Run, you can hit someone's entire kill team with a good Strafing Run. So they probably need to look at Strafing Run a bit. But outside of that, I think the balance is really good. The only problematic stuff is when you get like to the D and E tiers. But even then, you don't have much in D tier. E tier, I think, is unsalvageable unless they just release a new kill team for them. Because Eldar are just like, there's no hope for Eldar. I'm an Eldar player. I've been playing Eldar, oh my gosh, since I was like 11. So, oh my god, how long is that now? 19 years? No. Yeah, 19 years, and like, even as there's no hope for that kind of compendium team. They need just a new bespoke team. But, you know, we could be getting Ranger kill teams, or like a new Guardian kill team, either which I would love. Just anything better than the compendium. But yeah, I hope it like my tier list shows how balanced everything mostly is. And I think, like, if you look at the B to S tier, you have a solid selection of competitive kill teams, whereas the C tier are just, you know, they're almost acceptable. Like, they're still average, they're okay, but, you know, they're just missing something, and that's probably just dedicated kill team rules. So if we get in 4 kill teams every 4 months, you know, eventually they'll work through that. But yeah, that's pretty much it about my kill team. Once again, thanks to Command Point and Glass Half Dead for their kill teams and inspiring, well, their tier list and inspiring me. I also used Glass Half Dead's kill team format. I mean, not tier list format for kill team, which I'll link in the episode description if you want to have a go at making your own tier list like he encouraged. But yeah, if I do another one again, it will probably be either in like 3 or 4 months' time. Something where you can get like a solid picture of the meta past like events. Because if you look at events-wise, Pathfinders have been doing really well recently. Commandos were dominating as well. But that's in the UK. In Spain, it's been quite varied from like in other tournaments. You've actually had lots of different kill teams winning. Not to say, you know, Commandos and Pathfinders aren't really good. But if you look at the spread of overall winners, it's actually really varied. And I think it's only now more people are starting to play Pathfinders that they're becoming more successful in their win rate. And the thing bringing down Commandos is like everyone is using them because Commandos are really good. But yeah, the spread of winning kill teams and even like kill teams getting in the top 4 after the FAQ and errata from Games Workshop is really healthy, I'd say, which is a good sign. And I think we're thankfully, at least for now, away from the days of Custodes dominating everything. I am a bit worried about power creep in terms of I need to see what happens with the next box. So hopefully we don't have this thing where the next box is better than the previous box, because, you know, Pathfinders are obviously really strong and even Novitiates are quite good. But I'd hate to see in the next box where one of their kill teams is now the best, and then you've got still a really good kill team. But we'll see. But as I said, even if they do plan to tone down Pathfinders and Commandos, there's only some minor tweaks they need to do to bring them down. And I'd say the game's still really healthy and fun and varied to play at the moment. So, and I'd say it really comes down to terrain and what terrain you have and what's being used. But yeah, that's enough of my rambling. If you like this tier list, please remember to like and subscribe, as well as comment what you thought of it and what other videos you'd like to see, and whether you'd like to see me do more tier lists as time goes on, or any other kill team related content. But don't worry, I will be back soon. And yeah, I've been on a break for a bit, but hopefully should be back with more regular content, especially of the kill team variety. So until next time, no matter what your tier is, remember, you can always roll a crit.